We are live. Yay.
There.
How's it going?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm good. It's been a busy few days.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's been taking up your time?
I've been hanging out at the recording studio, the official recording studio, not my homemade tent, which actually was super effective. But hanging out at the recording studio, getting the audiobook done. So, spent 6 hours there yesterday. So my voice was pretty sore by the time I was done. But we got halfway through the book, so we'll finish up the rest of the book today, and then we'll be getting that up on Audible as soon as possible. So it's pretty exciting.
And is that the book you just finished writing?
Yeah, so it's finished writing it months ago, but now it's out in public. So Unleashing Influence is the book. So it's on social media, and then also recorded the online program for people to be able to learn how to do it for themselves. So that'll be coming out soon too. So
you need a name for your tent.
I need a new name for my tent.
It's like tent studio live or something like that. So it sounds fancy and like you're doing something important inside your tent.
Yeah, I feel like it looks like Angela's Shantytown more than anything else. It's kind of embarrassing how bad it looks, but honestly, it's so effective. Like everything was padded inside, so it worked well. But for the audiobook, I'm actually at a professional studio with a professional person helping with the recordings. So that's pretty nice actually, because then he does all the editing for me too. Much less work.
So when you're in the tent, I could say that you're in your padded room now.
Truly. It was so funny because I could hear everything bouncing, right? Like there was a computer screen was part of what was holding it up, and I could hear the sound bouncing. So I had to like cover that in blankets, and I had my blackout curtains because those reduce sound too. So yeah, it was a layer of different kinds of fabrics, like a little shantytown. So
Shantytown, you're in your padded room. Okay.
Yeah.
So are we gonna do the reveal in terms of what our schedule is gonna start to look like? We've been alluding to it for a little while now.
Yes. Do you have the list, or do you want me to look it up?
You go for it.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I was not expecting you to say that. So I know that Monday is Mind Mondays. And then Tuesdays, are we calling it what I wanted to call it? Tired Ass Tuesdays. And then Wednesday.
Tired Ass Tuesday, Toppling Tiredness Tuesday, something like that. Something about circadian rhythms and daily living.
Yeah. And then Wednesday is Whip Your Ass Wednesday, because we're going to have our personal trainer on. Thursdays is Thankful Thursdays, which we're going to start today. And then Friday is Foodie Friday.
Yeah, where we're focusing on diet and everything while we're sitting at home, so we're not just eating Doritos all the time.
Yes.
Again, with all of these things, back to that frame we talked about at the beginning, is we're increasing serotonin, decreasing cortisol as the center point of wellness and the science behind it. Mm-hmm. And then bringing really tactical things, how to every single time that we get on here, or as much as we can.
Absolutely. So since today is Thankful Thursday, what are you thankful for, Michael?
Well, I haven't heard yet, but it sounds like my parents are getting off the boat today.
Okay. So I was like, you haven't heard what you're thankful for yet?
Yeah, exactly. I'm still waiting. But all of the stuff in the media yesterday was extremely encouraging. The president, Trump of all people, was advocating for them getting off the boat.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? They keep talking about Canada's coming to get the Canadians, and he was calling the governor of Florida to let them in, and it sounds like all those things are going to happen. Okay. I have not heard that. I called them this morning, haven't heard anything definitive as to when they're getting off, but everything is pointing towards it happening. So I'm super grateful about that, which means that my parents should be back in Canada by this weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, right?
How long has it been since they've had their feet on the actual earth, not on a boat?
Not on a boat. 2.5 weeks now, I think. Okay. Yeah, wow. It's been a while. I feel sorry for them. You know, I got to say this. Today's Thankful Thursday. I chatted with my mom and dad, I think on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And they've literally been inside their room in quarantine for 10 days now.
Right. So it's not like they're off frolicking on the boat. They're actually like locked in those tiny cabins that are not very fun to be in.
Correct.
On a good day.
Correct. Now they're fortunate. They got a nicer room, so they got a balcony. They can get outside and they can get fresh air. But they have a toilet that isn't flushing quite properly. Yeah, exactly. It works, but it kind of... So yeah. So they've got a bathroom that's maybe not 100%. They cannot make any of their own food. They have to wait for to be delivered to them. Right. They're just stuck. They can't do anything. And when I was chatting with my parents, it's easy for a situation like that to get down and get discouraged and get depressed and get antsy and frustrated. And I think if everybody in the whole world would completely understand anyone in that situation, how they'd feel. I was chatting with my mom and my dad, and my mom had this big grin on her face. She said, I can't control anything, but I can choose to control my attitude. So I'm just going to choose. And she had a big legitimate smile on her face. And she's like, and I still like this guy sitting next to me. But here she is, she's still making jokes in a situation that is unbelievably difficult, with no idea where they're going, no idea when they're ever going to be off, no idea when she's going to be home, no idea if her toilet's even going to flush this time. No idea when she's going to eat, what she's going to eat next. And she's choosing a place of gratitude. So I'm looking at this thinking, if my mom can choose this, yes, I can't go work, and yes, I can't do the things I'm used to.
Right.
But the amount of movement and freedom and flexibility I have now compared to what my parents have, it doesn't even compare. And it was a great reminder for me to really be paying attention to what is it that is in my control. And we talked about this a little bit when we had Rayanne on yesterday, is that we can control our actions, we control our attitudes, we control our feelings. And my mom was a really fantastic example of really putting into action those three things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's what I'm thankful for. How about you?
I'm honestly thankful for how the dental community has come together. Like, I know there's lots of other little communities that have come together, but usually our dental community is so segregated and competitive.
So true.
And it's actually been really interesting to see people they're like, oh, my lawyer said I should do this. My accountant suggested I found this article and that article. And they're actually, instead of just sharing a little bit, they're being very free flowing with information. So it's actually been really lovely to see that. And I got to talk to one of my friends in the States yesterday, and she does a lot of stuff on infection control. Her name is Brandy Hooker Evans, and she had an interesting perspective on stuff. And it was interesting because we got to have this really deep conversation that we haven't had before, because we're looking at how to collaborate and whatnot. But now we actually have the space to take some time and think, okay, what we thought working together might be completely different. It might look completely different now than what we were expecting before, because we don't know what's going to happen on the other end of all this with our dental world. But just having the time to sit and chat and not have her we had uninterrupted time, even though her kids are at home and all this stuff. So just thankful for having that space with people to talk, and everyone's letting their guard down now, because a lot of times people are on these super professional, they keep things on a super professional level, but there's been lots of times where people have been like, I feel like crap right now, and I don't even know why I feel like crap. The world isn't ending. We're very fortunate for how we are, but this is actually how I'm feeling. And so it's been nice to see that authenticity in a lot of people as well. So,
what I'm thinking might be a good one for Thankful Thursday is that we dial in on some of the topics, for example, relationships being something of thankfulness, and how we can be intentional about building up relationships stronger. That might be really neat to do in the future.
Yeah.
Because cool. I agree with you. What you're saying and what we're seeing right now it's real. It's nice and encouraging. Nice is such a weak word. It is phenomenal. It's beautiful, truly, that way people are letting their guard down right now. That we're able to connect again as humans, not as competitors or whatever other labels that we're choosing to put on each other when we're keeping our little silos, especially as dentists, in place.
Yep. Dentistry is a very different world when it comes to that isolation. And this is the first time I've really seen people come together. The last time we went through a major thing was, I would consider the global financial crisis, the oil crash for sure too.
Yeah.
But when I was still practicing, this is what I last saw. And it got hyper competitive. It actually got cutthroat, where people were tattling on each other to the board and all this kind of stuff, and not helping each other out during a really hard time. And this, I don't know why it's so different that people have come together. I think it's because everything's come to a dead stop, and now they're realizing there's more to life than just being hyper competitive in business. But it's been really lovely to see.
Yeah, especially with the way things went in Calgary there for a while.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Pardon me. So what are you doing on a more regular day-to-day basis to be increasing gratitude and thankfulness in your life? Do you have any specific practices that you could share? I mean, I've got mine, but to hear your perspective, I really love to hear what you're doing. Maybe I know I can learn a few things from you.
Well, when I wake up in the morning, I'm very thankful to be warm and snuggly in my bed. Honestly, that's what I think every morning. I'm like, tie myself up a little bit tighter, and then I'm like, I'm thankful that I'm living the life that I am, right? And sometimes I look back like 10 years ago, what I imagined my life would be like now is not even close to it. And because of some of the things that I went through, different opportunities came about. Yeah. And so I'm always thankful that I have this day, whatever may come, but to be in the place that I am, to be able to help people the way that I can, to be able to be creative the way that I can, to have this amazing team that I have behind me. Like, they've been pretty awesome through all this, even though they've been like pushed pretty hard to get the stuff done that we've needed to get done over the last 2 weeks. They have so risen to the challenge and have been pushing me up the mountain. So I'm always really thankful for them. So that's the beginning of my day, is just thinking about kind of counting my blessings there. At night, I spend my time on my stationary bicycle, watching Netflix and enjoying a show, and just being thankful that I actually have the time to decompress at the end of the day. I don't have to go to bed stressed if I can burn all that off. So there's it gets bookended with those two things.
Do we need to like bust out like a Rolling Stones "Can't Always Get What You Want" and singing a solo right now? You kind of felt like you're going that way.
No, I do not sing in public. If you ever take me to karaoke, you will probably make me cry. I'm like honestly like terrified to sing in public. So
I'll try to get a little comic relief now, because you look like you're getting close to a Kleenex moment as you were sharing your gratitudes.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm totally good now. We're not having that again.
It'll happen.
Oh, yes, I know, but not today. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm back. I'm not frozen anymore now.
You are back. Yeah.
I'm not sure. We're going to lose this little shtick once my internet speed gets caught up to where it's supposed to be.
I'm so excited for your internet speed to get ready. Well, it's funny because we were talking with one of our friends from the U of A, and you froze, and he's like, "It's like the Matrix," and I feel like we should share the costume that I found for you.
Oh God.
For your Matrix.
Yeah.
I won't, but I feel like we should. It's very pleathery.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. It's funny. Another gratitude thing is like after we finish these broadcasts, I always feel very thankful that I know you. And that you came into my world, because you came into my world without me knowing that you had kind of stepped into my world. Like, you came to a speech that I was at and I didn't know you were really in the audience. And then you came to another one afterwards. And there's like, I meet tons of people, as I'm sure you do as well. And there's certain people that come in and you're like, oh yeah, they're great, blah, blah, blah. But then there's certain people that you just like click with. And, you know, every time you and I have a conversation on camera or off camera, we laugh our butts off. And I always like play back. I told you this. I play back our video without the sound, so I can just watch like the little bursts of like smiles and joy and like laughter, and it kind of always plays off of each other. So that always ends up being a big bright spot of my day.
There's a good friend. I actually haven't spoken with him on. Maybe I should be careful not to say good friend. He used to be a really close friend who I was just telling you about. His name is also Micheal. Right. I'm hoping I can get him on to join us on one of these Thankful Thursdays. He is simply the happiest human I've ever met. And he's got this personal life philosophy of whatever you do, you should be in joy constantly. Mm-hmm. And so he turned his own world upside down to live that life. He had a real estate business that he was grinding for. He's like, 2 more years. Yeah, we'll get there. And then finally he's like, why am I even doing this? Mm-hmm. And he sold everything. And now he sells stuff online, and that's his journey. I'm not saying we should all be going and selling things online, but it was for him, it was this decision of like, I'm going to begin to live a life aligned with what really truly brings me joy. And he's just a light bulb everywhere he goes. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something really great in that. So like, even what I was thinking about that as you were speaking, because you're talking about when we meet those people that there's connection and there's resonance and things get silly, it's so easy to let the silliness slip, especially as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And as a parent, that's one of the things I'm most grateful for, is that my kids don't know how to stop being silly.
Yeah.
Now they can get a little annoying. Like right now, my son is up in his room and he's not allowed to come out. And he's been in there for like an hour because he keeps harassing his siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm in the studio here right now, I can't go and keep an eye on them. So there's that side of it too. But children are so good at reminding us to be silly, to not take life too seriously, to live in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So why kids are so rarely depressed, because they just, oh, what's the next thing to go play with? And then they're off like squirrel.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I don't have kids around me, obviously, but I've got like Sai.
Come on, Sai.
Sai he's awesome.
Exactly.
But he's so funny, because like he is like a little kid, because everything is novel. Like I put him in his little ball to run around, and he will bounce off the walls in his little ball for as long as I want him to. But when he's done, he'll like come and roll up to my feet, and I'll move away and he'll come and roll. So he's like, I'm done. Come, like, Mom, I want to play with you now. But he can make like a crappy day. You just like hold him and the world stops, right?
Yep.
It's so interesting how that happens. And kids are the same way. They just like pull you into their little bubble of amazing.
Animals, children, they both do that very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
With this practice of gratitude that we're talking about, we're going through some of the mechanics. I froze. No, I didn't. I'm back.
You did freeze.
Oh man. A friend of mine who you know as well, Suresh Charkande.
Yes.
Whenever he lectures, he loves to share a quote: "The eye cannot see what the mind does not know."
Mm-hmm.
And so the practice of what we're doing right now of just sharing gratitudes, there's a part inside of our brain called the reticular activating system. It's literally like a filter, but what are you going to pay attention to and what are you not going to pay attention to? Mm-hmm. It's the part of our brain that allows us to have sensory adaptation, so that when you're paying attention to a lecture, you don't hear the door close behind you and the person on this side of the room sneeze. That you can, your mind filters in theory what you think should be most important. When we create these practices and disciplines of gratitude, we can train our mind to notice more and more and more of these things. And then instead of feeling like the life is going into the shitter, we can start noticing how good everything is around us. Mm-hmm. There's a book I read, I can't remember the name of it right now, but there's a gratitude challenge in it that they said they wanted you to do 10 things and then 10 different things and then 10 different things. And so it would be a 30-day challenge, but you couldn't repeat the same thing twice. I misread that as every day it had to go from 10 to 20 to 30. So by the time you got to the 30th day, you're doing 300 things and you couldn't repeat anything. And I was like, holy cow, how in the world would I ever do that?
Yeah.
And I started realizing if I would ever be able to do that challenge, you'd have to notice everything in the day. Mm-hmm. So it expanded this thought. It's like, why not just try that? Mm-hmm. And so it was this last fall, I was out for a run in the morning, and it was one of those really nice fall mornings. And I said, I'm just going to do this now. Like, and just every thought and everything I noticed that came through my mind, I was going to choose to frame it as gratitude. So of course, the simple things like, oh, I'm so grateful for this beautiful morning when I'm out running in the fall. And then you're like, oh, I felt really grateful for that really nice breeze that just blew over my face as I'm really sweaty. Mm-hmm. And then I see a garbage can, which normally is kind of gross. And I go, oh, I'm grateful that I live in a community that values cleanliness enough to put these garbage cans out where we can all be. And I see the don't stop, which is usually annoying to most people. Like, I'm grateful that we live in a country that values the rule of law and trying to live in an orderly way with each other. Mm-hmm. And I spent like the next 15 minutes of my run, and I probably knocked out 300. And I was like, wow, that's kind of neat. Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to look for things like, okay, I gotta think. Because I gotta get my kids to gratitude journal, they'll get to like 2 or 3 and like, Dad, I can't think of it anymore. But when we start to take the time to practice, and I'm not frozen. I just ran out of things to say.
Did not. Liar. That was pretty slick though, because I was like, is he back? Is he
Next time I'll just like go like, and I'll actually be there. You'll think I'm frozen.
Yep.
We can make fun of
trickery.
This. Yeah.
Yes, especially when you get your internet finally fixed. When is that going to be?
The router is in the mail, so sometime next week.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing. I find it funny how in and out the internet can be, and sometimes it's just like, oh, well, maybe this is just the world giving me a break, and I can move on to something that doesn't involve the internet right now. And yeah, we're so used to being hyper connected with everything. So having those moments where you actually have to stop and go do something else, like listen to an audiobook you had already downloaded or whatever.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
Hey, so you out of quarantine now? Out of
Yes.
self-isolation?
Yes.
Hey, there's something to be thankful for.
Totally. Yeah. Being able to, not feeling, I was in quarantine, honestly, like even like opening my door, I was like, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I loud? It was kind of, it was really restrictive. Not that like on a daily basis, I work out of my house anyway, and all my team works out of their houses. So we're always kind of isolated anyway, but you have that choice to go outside and interact and all this kind of stuff. And until my day of quarantine was done, there was that guilt of even just like opening the door to grab a package from the mailbox. So it feels nice to feel that little bit of extra freedom for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I can't even imagine to say, okay, well, I still have the freedom to move my home, but that's it.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like my parents a little bit. Like you couldn't even go out and get groceries. People had to bring them to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Very thankful for spud.ca because I got food. Like this is total, like this situation has made me realize how privileged we actually are in our lives. Because I'm like, there's people like out on the street who don't have a place to go and they can't go to the drop-in centers and whatnot because they can't be in those small spaces. And I'm like, for people who are complaining that they have to stay home, honestly, we have it pretty darn good. Our houses are still warm. We have lighting when we need it. We have internet access. We can use programs like this to actually like speak to each other and still have that interaction, even if we can't have physical interaction. Yeah. So we've kind of got the best of the worst that it could be, right?
It's true.
Yeah. And even like with your parents' situation, like there was a time where it seemed like they were going to get cut off from food and water, but at least they were still like, they still had shelter. They still had access. They still have access to food. Now they're going to get to come home. There's still a lot of privilege in that we take for granted. And, when I talked to my assistant, Christina, who's in Croatia, like they aren't allowed to leave their houses right now. Like there's police in the streets stopping them from going anywhere. And we still have it pretty good. Maybe we should be at that situation where we shouldn't be going out. But at this point, those little freedoms we need to be still feeling gratitude for while we still have them.
So what's the situation like over there in Croatia? I'm kind of curious.
Well, they're about 4 weeks ahead of us.
Okay.
As far as everything that's happened. So like they got their first case about 4 weeks before we did.
Okay.
As far as it like hitting the news for them as to what was happening. So they slowly had things shut down and now they're under lockdown. One person is allowed in the grocery store at a time. So people are lined up around the grocery store. It's like a 3-hour wait. Oh, and they have to be spaced away from each other as well. So, they're like lined up all the way around, but it's being heavily monitored. So if you try and come out of your house, she said there are megaphones and everything else to yell at you to go back in. You're allowed to like take your pets out so that they're not defecating and whatnot in the house and causing more disease because of that. So they've got at least that part to get outside with. But other than that, they're pretty stuck.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So.
Did they have any word as to when they may be able to start moving around a little more freely?
They don't know yet. And last Saturday, they had an earthquake as well. So all the facades fell off the buildings and they crushed cars and everything else. So that was scary. So everyone was allowed outside for a second and now they're back stuck inside. So
thank God for boring Alberta where we don't have earthquakes.
Exactly. We have snowstorms and get flooded every once in a while. But every time I travel, this is one thing I always think about is, like there's lots of amazing places to live in the world. But the nice thing about where I live, like if I go and walk downtown at night, I'm really not afraid of being mugged or attacked or anything like that. Whereas in other countries, especially as like, I'm not a very big human, I'm scrappy, but nobody knows that. But if someone tried to like take me down, like I am pretty vulnerable if I'm not expecting it, right?
Yeah.
So that is one thing with the way our world is, especially in Canada. We're pretty fortunate that way.
Are you reading a lot of books right now?
Yes, I'm actually reading one of your recommendations.
Ooh, which one?
The Brene Brown one, the Dare to Lead.
And what do you think so far?
I really like it. I was actually, because I'm recording my audiobook, I'm like, I know I'm a motor mouth and I talk way too fast. So I'm like, she's a motor mouth too when she does her presentation. So I wanted to see how slow she actually talked, because I listen to all my audiobooks on like double or triple speed because I can't go slowly with them. Otherwise I can't pay attention. And I was like, oh my gosh, she is speaking so slowly. So yesterday I kept trying to like think as I was doing my speaking. I'm like, how slow would she be doing it? Because it's hard to slow down. It's crazy hard to slow down.
Yep.
But yes, that's the book that I'm reading right now, and I've got a few others in the queue as well.
What book are you most grateful for? Seeing as how we're on Thankful Thursday.
The 4-Hour Workweek is still the book that is my go-to over and over again. Not that I ever think I'll work 4 hours a week, but just the way he thinks about like really harnessing your time.
Okay.
It always gives me a reset as to like what is important in the work that I'm doing. What am I doing that I should maybe get my team doing, or getting my team to eliminate completely? That book.
It's the Tim Ferriss one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I read it probably within the first year that he had released it. And I read that one at least twice a year, if not 4 times a year. Yeah.
I've heard that one. I've had that one recommended a few times. I have yet to read it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gone up my list now.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's so simple, a lot of the stuff that he says, but it's stuff that so easily gets away from us in North America because we always want to be like, have to work harder, instead of trying to work smarter about everything.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, now that's gone up my list quite a bit.
What are you reading right now?
I'm not reading anything right now. I'm working. I know, right? I do have a habit that my go-to book that I've read, the 2 books actually, I'd probably have read more than any other 2 books, are The Happiness Advantage. I haven't read that one in probably about 2 years, but I've read it probably about 10 or 11 times. Everybody who works on my team has to read it, and we do a book review together where we ask questions and we dialogue about it.
Okay.
And it's really a lot of this stuff. It's what are the science that sits behind well-being? It's written like a self-help book, but it's a PhD Harvard guy. Okay. So everything in the bibliography is peer-reviewed primary research, which for a geek like me, or nerd, or whatever you want to call it, like me, is okay. So for a real brainiacy, geeky kind of guy like me, it's perfect. Love it. The other one I go back to a lot is one called Think and Grow Rich, because it's so much of the mindset about success in any area of life. It's not just about money; it's about success anywhere. But it's the way to live and to think and approach life, so that life will align itself in a direction that I'm happy with.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we should try to make our book, maybe Thankful Thursdays will be also book recommendation Thursdays for people. Are you frozen or are you faking?
There we go. Now we're back. You kind of like this in your freeze. You're like.
So I actually freeze when you freeze?
Yes, it's true.
Okay.
That's how I know I'm frozen, because you're like on my end.
I make lots of funny faces when I'm talking. So
we all do.
Not surprising.
Yeah, we could even do that, and then we can talk a little bit about that book even on a Thursday too.
Sure, that sounds good. Do you want me to send you the audio from the audiobook so you can give it a listen as well?
Sure.
We'll call it you're looking for glitches, but you can listen to it from a social media perspective.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I can forward that to you.
Coolio.
Anything else today?
I don't think so. I plan to get outside a little bit today and enjoy the beautiful, beautiful blue sky. I'm going to be grateful for that.
Okay.
I'm grateful that we're talking about gratitude because it's a good reminder.
It totally is. Yeah.
It's such a good reminder.
We have it pretty darn good.
We really do.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we will let it go for today. Tomorrow you are flying solo with Dr. Irwin because I am in school tomorrow because I'm have a 3-day course that I have to be in, and I'm not allowed to skip out for an hour or half an hour to do this. So I will not be joining you guys, but I look forward to watching the broadcast afterwards, and we'll talk about that too.
Diet and obesity and inflammation and all that jazz.
Yes, exactly. So
perfect.
Cool. Well, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and yes, and I will see you. Well, I'll probably see you sometime over the weekend, but if not, I will see you here on Monday.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend. Oh, no, not.